This is a very special occasion for me because over 28 years ago, I had the opportunity to join the Palacio family. And little did I know at that time what that really meant. So today I would like to just share a few of the experiences I had with Pop Clifford. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the background that I'm sure many of you had with Pop Clifford. And hopefully we will all get to celebrate, the life and legacy of Pop Clifford. Before I get started, let me just recite a scripture that comes to mind. It is Psalms 118, verse 24. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. You see, today, many of us are going to experience a lot of different emotions as we reminisce the many memories, grieve the loss of our dearly beloved. There is so much to share about John Clifford Palacio that I know I don't have enough time, but I'm hoping that I'll try to do him a little justice because he deserves it. So let me give you a few of what I would call some Cliff notes, or Clifford notes, to tell you a little bit about his life. And as I do this, I'm pretty sure some of you will probably sit back and say, I remember that, and it either made me a little angry, it may have made me want to cry. Some of you will be sad. My brother-in-law here. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, great. Some of you all will be sad. Some of you all may want to cry. Some of you all may have some regrets about what you did or did not do. Some of you will smile. I'm hoping some of you will laugh. Yeah, I say laugh. Because as we vacillate through these various emotions, I'm pretty sure I could let you know that Pop Clifford is in a better place. And I say that because he's in a place where there's no more pain, no more sickness. He's rejoicing now because he's with his loved one, Marita, who we loved for the last 67 years. And so, whether you believe it or not, he's in a better place. And I'm pretty sure that the two of them are looking down on us today, and they're rejoicing, and they're celebrating. Because they know they did what they were supposed to do while they were here on this side of glory. So, family, you're gonna have your emotions, but please rest assured that our loved ones will forever be with us. So over the next few minutes, I want to go over a little bit of his history. And I thought it was very profound because you're going to hear as I talk about the history, the impact that John Palacio had, not only in his family, but in the community. So he was born on the 6th of May, 1930. He was the oldest of Santiago. Oh boy, I'm trying to get it right. Santiago.
Close, good enough.
Please bear with me. I get this all the time from my wife. So from an early age, he was identified as a scholar. Amongst his peers, he was also a standout socially. And even more so, he was an elite athlete. Now over the years, Pops became more of a Garífuna treasure. He became more of a Belizean champion, a prolific educator. He always stood tall and served courageously as he pioneered through a lot of the challenges that he was faced as a patriarch within the community. And while he was doing it, he was always trying to elevate the social consciousness of everyone he came in contact with. As I think about it, I don't think I ever really had a simple conversation with Pops. It was always something very constructive. It was always something very thought-provoking, and I welcomed that. You see, he was a legendary, distinguished statesman who was this ambassador of change. And I think his greatest legacy is sitting with you today. And that's how he was being a father to Philip, Selby, John, Joycelyn, Greg, Cheryl, Renee, Anil, Tracy, and Milton, who lovingly called him Dad, Daddy, Pops, and on occasion they referred to him as Pa. Your Pa. Now, given his former demeanor and his no-nonsense reputation, some of you came to know Pop Clifford because he was well-respected leader within the community. So some of you all may have called him Uncle Cliff. Some others may have called him Mr. Palacio. So he had these many titles and many names, but he was known by everyone. And I'm told on a few occasions, and I think this did his heart well, there are a few people who selected friends who called him Ford. Now that was because they were from his small town of Seine Bight. And when he heard this, I think it did his heart well, because it reminded him of his homeland. So now Pop's reputation in the course of the community always preceded him. When anyone had the privilege of getting to know him, or while we were trying to celebrate him today, most of the things that comes to mind is he's a Garífuna. A Garífuna. This proud, resilient group of people, they experienced some extreme hardships. However, they never lost their dignity, they never lost their self-respect, they never lost their nobility. They're the only Black Americans who have preserved their native language. And listening to it today, it does my heart well. It does my heart real well. Because these ancestors, they were never slaves. You can never shackle them down, you can never hold them down. However, they were people of resilience. And that's what we see today. We see it in you, in each and every one of you. Pop saw that also. And so he was destined early on to make sure that he was preserving, just as his ancestors did, the rich and unique Afro-culture heritage of their traditions. That's what we're here today, celebrating that. Now, I don't know about you, but also when I hear the name Clifford J. Palacio, it conjures up in me some of these images of the Garífuna people. Now, granted, I wasn't born in Belize, I wasn't grown up as a Garífuna, but I will tell you, I admire the culture, the unity, the togetherness, because it speaks volumes of how there's solidarity amongst the Garífuna people. And not only did you have it in Belize, Pops helped bring it here to the United States. And so, as he engaged the community with his intellectual prowess, he was always confident. And I like to think that he always embodied this Garífuna swagger, the culture. Because anyone who met him and knew they were going to be talking to a man who were of the Garífuna cultural background. So just like his ancestors, he walked with the self-dignity, always upright, the self-respect and nobility. Now, Pops loved being a Garífuna so much that during his transition days, he spoke the language almost exclusively. So much so that while he was in this 24/7 healthcare facility and they were taking care of him during his last 3 months, the doctors and the nurses initially thought that he could speak English. Because he never spoke the English. Instead, he was speaking this language he never heard before. They thought he was from Africa. It was shared with the caregivers, and I'm pretty sure Pops is very proud of how this was shared, that his native language is Garífuna, and that is his language of preference, but he also spoke both Spanish and English very well. In fact, he was a language arts educator. So here again, he had the choice of which language he wants to speak. This also brings me to yet another special and unique dimension about my father-in-law. He's an educated heart. He always enjoyed sharing his life experiences and his rich Belizean culture and the history. Pop sometimes had this uncanny ability of kind of keeping everyone on the edge of their seats as he told his story about what was going on in his experience. And it normally came with this sense of quick wit, as well as a little bit of humor, but it always enlightened me at the same time. What's interesting is it came about so fast that you didn't know whether to, is this in disbelief, or did this really happen? But in actuality, it did. but he was so nonchalant about it because he was just that impactful. On one episode of his life, he even shared that, and this is using his own words, he attended primary school under one of Belize's most outstanding Garifuna teachers, Simon M. Sampson, Sr., aka Master Bomb. He also shared this quote. I like to think of this also reminiscent of Pops, is that after his father, and we talked about this a few times, he was in the military, and I like to hear this, about how his father came back from Scotland and during World War II in 1942. And at the age of 15, he and his family moved from Seine Bight to Garífuna, the town where he continued his elementary education, as well as the town where he started attending the Sisters of the Holy Family. Now, it was there that his education really flourished, because it was there that he was getting more of the foundational knowledge of being an educator and understanding the power of education. These formidable experiences, being taught under Simon, aka Master Bomb, as well as going into the Sacred Heart School, were what I would call the formidable times of Pop's life. And it really propelled him on his lifelong journey of educating others. Here's another noteworthy example of the Belizean history. And Dad was very proud of this. He was part of this small group of young students who in 1946 were selected to become part of the primary school certificate examination. Now, this was being introduced in Belize by the Colonial Education Department. So not only was he one of the few select students, because remember earlier I told you he was a standout, he and some of these students did some miraculous things while they were there. They were not slouches, I would call it. They always stood out to do something great. This was a prestigious opportunity for Pops and these students, because remember, education is the root and the foundation of what he was really after. And we also know that education was the root and foundation of what he thought was very important for preserving the Garifuna culture and its history. So in his late teens, Pops became this pupil teacher, which is kind of like what we would call a student teacher. And this is at the right old age of 19. I like to see some 19-year-olds now trying to be student teachers, but Pops was a very mature 19-year-old. And in 1947, as his pupil teacher, or should I say the student teacher, his teaching career officially began. He, along with Eugene Hernandez, Augustine Flores, and George Guerrero, attended St. John's College High School under the Jesuit Mission Teaching Training Scholarship Program initiated by late Father John M. Cobb. He was a superior at St. John's College. Now, these students, like Pop, were selected because back in those days, they would pick the cream of the crop to educate. Now, am I bragging? I'm stating the fact. And not only would they educate them, typically it was because they were going to be educated and they go become missionaries. Did you think of Pops being a father or a missionary? Daddy didn't choose that route. Okay? Daddy did. But nevertheless, he did take advantage of the opportunity of being educated. And if that wasn't enough, while they were there, knowing that the Garifuna language is an oral language, Dad and these fellow students took it upon themselves to go and translate, or should I say compile, a Garifuna dictionary. Remember, an oral language now being documented, because now when you document it, you can replicate it and you can teach it more so. And that's very powerful. And that's what Pops and these gentlemen did. That was huge because it had never been done before, and the results of their work got published, first of its ever, in 1951 in Belize. So talk about an icon, someone who made a difference, someone who didn't just sit by the wayside, but someone who knew who he was and was always making a difference to let others know who he was and sharing that with anyone who he came in contact with so he can make them better. Now, the publications that Pops helped publish, the first being the dictionary, as well as the series of scriptures that were written in Garifuna, all kind of served to Pop's desire to not only educate, but also make sure that that education came in with the celebration, not only the Garifuna people, but as his ancestors would have been. And capturing that was also very important because those are some of the things he brought with him when he came to the States. Now, after graduating from college in 1953, I think it was years ago, right? 1953. He passed the first teaching exams while attending high school, and then he went on to teach at San Jose Palmer and Oak Walk District. It was just one-person teacher school. And while he was there, he got the opportunity to not only teach the local students there, but then he went to what we call a graduate school, where he got his other 2 years of education to become what I would call a full-fledged teacher. So, not only was he a Palacio, some would say that at this young age, back in Belize, Pops was this young, educated, good-looking, okay, socially aware, and, if you will, a leader. He's a complete package. I like to think some of his sons probably think that they inherited that as well. But nevertheless, Pops not only was a complete package, Pops was what I would call the ultimate bachelor of the day. However, it didn't let him go to his head, because in 1955, in his own words, with everything going on in his life, Pops said that he married in 1955, he married his high school sweetheart, Rita Sergio, then a student teacher also. Now, this lifelong union produced 9 wonderful children, 6 boys, 3 girls. Rita, a trained teacher and a child development specialist with the state of California, stood firmly by her husband, quietly raising and harmoniously educating all of their 9 kids. I don't know about you, but 9 kids, that's a lot. Did you say if there are any rest for the weary? Because not only was Pops and Mom doing all these things, they were taking care of their kids and doing a phenomenal job of that. And I say that because their careers as a team and raising their kids manifested itself really in not only how they talk, but how they operate as a family. So they were working together as a team, working in rural Belize, and immediately after they had their honeymoon, they moved to, they started educating in San Pedro and Burgess Key. And so many people started recognizing Pops and Mama Rita as this education powerhouse. Why? Because they were both multilingual, fluent in Garifuna, Spanish, English, Creole, and Pops, you always got to do one up, Maya, little Maya, okay? In 1970, Pops and Mom Rita migrated to the United States with the aim of providing for their kids a better education, the opportunity to have a better life. And once again, if you think about it, this is like now 15 years being married, and now you're going to migrate to the United States, a place that you haven't been to ever before. Now, his migration, their migration, was really another testament to his commitment to education, as well as the sacrifices that both he and his family would have to endure as they settled at 1255 West 85th Street in the heart of South LA. Could you thought of any better places to go to? That was a pretty tough neighborhood. But not only did they go there, but their going there as a family was a testament of how not only Pops and Mama Rita, but also the entire family had the strength and resiliency so that they would not only come to the community, but they would come and excel in the community, never missing a beat. Now, I don't know about you, but if you see families that migrate, normally there's a lot of things that happen, a lot of sacrifices that are made. A lot of times people don't even understand why people go through what they go through. But if you think about the greater good of what Pops and Mom Rita was trying to do, it wasn't even about them. They were thinking generations down the road, so that life would be better for their kids. So in 1973, Pops played this leading role in ensuring that all the Garifuna culture and traditional language migrated with him to the United States by joining what we call the Garifuna Settlement Day Committee of Los Angeles. Now, while he was in this position, he held the title of the secretary as well as the president for 16 years. And what was interesting, the entire time while he was doing this, he was ensuring that the population of the Garifuna people that were migrating here to the United States not only were getting to retain their culture, in spite of them being undocumented, he was making sure that they can help celebrate their culture, although they were in this new land, because that was very important to him, and it should have been important to them as well, and I'm sure it was. Now during this time, some of you probably participated, but Pops and the Garifuna Settlement Day Committee, they initially promoted several trends. And these are trends and traditions today here in Los Angeles, many of which I'm pretty sure many of you have heard, or your parents have heard, or you participated in. One of them being the 9-day,
Novena.
Yeah, the 9-day novena, culminating in the Boluria. You gotta work with me. There was also the Garifuna mass prayers as well as hymns, outdoor Garifuna drumming and dancing. I mean, you hear the drums today, man, I tell you, it does my heart good. There was also the dancing, which I always love, and the annual celebration of the Settlement Day for the community. And this was an annual program. They also had this annual dinner. They also had this yearly excursions from Dangra, the radio program, and they would have the Miss Garifuna pageant and a traditional Christmas grand ball. Now, this is one of the traditions that our ancestors brought with them from Europe in the 18th century. Now, at this point, we can surmise that the life of Mr. Clifford Palacio was like a master class, and it reinforced our ancestors' sense of solidarity. Now, I wouldn't normally ask you, but today, because I want to pay respect to him, I'm going to ask you if you please just join me for a brief moment and give him a clap offering, a standing ovation, just to show your gratitude for what this man has done for you and your community. Now, in connection with the preservations of the Garifuna history, Clifford also worked on institutionalizing the Garifuna culture. He actually went and engaged with a number of what we call post-secondary academia, where he established contacts with the various universities that many of you all have known or heard of: Columbia University, Stanford, UCLA, USC, and Irvine. These visionary measures were significant and necessary, and Pops made sure that these necessary measures were helping to institutionalize the history of people like you and me who wants to celebrate the future of our Garifuna culture. So now, in 1997, Pops decided to stop and retire. He had been working as English as a second language for about 13 years. And he moved from the classroom to really just doing pro bono work. And he was in high demand, trying to make sure that the Garifuna culture was still being trained and taught. Not only was he in high demand, but what he also did during this time was he made sure that the children, nursery rhymes, being thought-provoking was introducing the Garifuna language to youth early on so that they would get the foundation and didn't just have to depend on their parents, but it would be ingrained in their culture as well because they were now in the United States. So I don't know about you, but I'm very proud of what Pops has done. And in the beginning, I said that we need to celebrate his life. But I also want you to realize that he's gone, but I pray that each of you realize that we're not confined by this period of celebrating Pops. His spirit will always be with us, that we reminisce his memories, his contributions, his commitment to education, and his impact toward the Garifuna people. We'll remember him for being a community activist. We'll also remember him for his selfless acts of kindness. Yes, I like to remember Pops as Mr. Garifuna. Mr. Garifuna. So, simply put, if you're thinking about Pops, all you got to do is look at your educational DNA, because he's part of it. He was part of it and he influenced it. So, I'm going to close by just saying, Pops, we will and always love you. And we thank you for all the things you've done. Whether you did it or did not do, we thank you for it. But I ask right now that God would give you and to all of us your love, your comfort, your peace. Share your love and your joy so that not only in this world, but in the next, we may be able to celebrate you. And may the blessings of our Father, our Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit be upon you as we remain with you today and forevermore. To God be our glory, honor, and praise. Amen. Come on.